What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, and I'm here for the sports news. And today, we're going to be doing an AFC Playoff Preview. In the first game up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Now let's start out with the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs have one of the most talented quarterbacks I think we've all ever seen in our lives. His arm strength, phenomenal. Pocket presence on another level. His escapability is up there with some of the greats. He doesn't run. He doesn't escape the pocket to just run. He's usually doing that so he can throw the ball down the field. But if you slack it and you're macking and you're slipping and you're pimping, he will take off and run. Pick up that huge 8 yards, 12 yards, just enough yards to keep a drive alive, where he can use that phenomenal arm, where he can throw from any angle, side arms, underarms. He can flip the ball out. I mean, there's nothing that Pat Mahomes can't do. And he has one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history in Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, every time you look up, it seems like he's running into the end zone. He is sensational. Their receiving core, they're average at best. But Pat Mahomes is on such a high level, and he's playing quarterback like we've never seen before. Then out of the backfield, I think the second half of the season, Jared McKinnon, running back number 1. He's been phenomenal catching the ball out of the backfield. Maybe not running it, but he's been excellent as a scat back. They used to call it in the 90s. Just one of those little running backs who can just catch the ball and make moves. When you use all your coverage and you drop back, and he drops that ball off to that man, he can take it to the house. And even down in the end zone, he's become phenomenal and a hell of a weapon, where he's catching the ball out of the backfield and running right into the end zone, because you have to guard Travis Kelce. You have to double team him, triple team him. And then some of these other receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster, what's his name? Scandling. Just the receiver after receiver that are just average. Mecole Hardman. Good receiver, I mean, decent guys, but they're not no game breakers. I mean, you know what I mean? They're not, it's not like none of these people are Tyreek Hill. Plain and simple. Defensively, Kansas City is just good enough with Chris Jones coming up the middle. Defensively, they're not a juggernaut, but because their offense can control the ball, they're one of the top teams in points per game, yards per game. One of the top, I think they're second in third down efficiency. Kansas City is extremely tough to stop. For Kansas City to win this game, they just got to show up, not turn the ball over, have low penalties, and they walk away with the victory. Should be in comfortable fashion. Now let's go over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, like I said last week, they've been terrible for so long that they've drafted at the top of the draft year after year after year, and they're absolutely loaded with talent on the offensive end and the defensive end. They have a lot of defensive ends coming off the edge, whether it be Allen. The secondary is decent. The linebackers, they're okay. But where their bread is buttered is with this quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Last week when he played the Kansas City Chargers, not the Kansas, but the Los Angeles Chargers, I said it was the battle of the young guns. And that it was. Great game. San Diego jumped out to an early lead, and The Jacksonville Jaguars was able to score right before the half, and that was a killer for San Diego. And they were able to put up point after point after point after that. And San Diego just couldn't run the ball and couldn't bleed the clock out to where they can, win that game. But Trevor Lawrence and Evan Ingram at the tight end position. Evan Ingram he's had a resurgence year this year. Travis Etienne, he's been phenomenal. That little running back number 1, Etienne, he's been fantastic. But it's going to be hard because Kansas City knows the number one way that the Jacksonville Jaguars have a chance to win this game is running the ball, controlling the clock, and keeping the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. Because the more he has the ball, the more likely he's going to make big plays. For Kansas City, for the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game, they have to force turnovers. They have to get after Pat Mahomes. They have to maybe a strip sack fumble here or there. You need at least 3 or 4 sacks. You need a bunch of quarterback pressures. You need to cause some turnovers. And even with all that, Kansas City will still have a chance to win this game. And that's why it's damn near impossible for me to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars, even though they have a lot of young talent. And there's a lot with that pass rush. But I just can't see them stopping Kansas City for 4 straight quarters and winning this game. Anything can happen. It's football. And, I always tell people football is for entertainment purposes only. Just like basketball. People say, is it rigged? Hey, that's up for you to decide. But in the small print, it says for entertainment purposes only. I'll never forget that. When you get up in the order and say, oh, they cheated and did this, that was a bad call. For entertainment purposes only. Kansas City should win this game comfortably. 31-17. Pat Mahomes, just too much. Travis Kelce, McKinnon, Juju Smith-Schuster, McCole Hartman. Just too much for the young Jacksonville Jaguars. But look out for Jacksonville Jaguars in the future. They're a young up-and-coming team. They have a lot of young talent. And, as that talent matures, they're going to become more and more of a problem. But Kansas City, 31-17. Now, the next game of the day, we have the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Buffalo Bills. Let's start out with the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, tight end Hurst, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. All of those weapons. Fantastic. This team actually made it to the Super Bowl last year. I did pick the Bengals to win last week, but they struggled last week. They did. Do you know what the Cincinnati Bengals' biggest problem is? I can tell you. They depend on the passing game way too much. They have a good running back in Joe Mixon. Even the backup, I forget his name off the top of my head, number 34, but he's the backup. He's a good running back. They need to run the ball way more than what they do. They're pass happy. Equivalent in basketball is they're 3-point happy. They shoot way too many threes. They pass the ball way too much. And they need a balance. If they had a balance, 50-50, or maybe even 45-55, the Bengals would be unstoppable. They have a good young defense, but there's a lot of holes in that defense. They can be had. And the number one person that can be had on the Cincinnati Bengals defense is Eli Apple. That's a problem. They do have a Wouzier, who was a former Cowboys cornerback. He's playing well. He's a good corner. But Eli Apple's a problem. It really is. But the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is probably the best wide receiver in the league. Him and Justin Jefferson, they neck and neck. But if you ask me who would I take out of the two, it's tough, but I would have to take Jamar. I would have to take Jamar Chase. And that's close. I'm talking about 51-49. It's not a huge gap. But Cincinnati does not run the ball consistently like they should. Too many times and too often, they're dependent on the passing game. Now the Buffalo Bills, as you can see this man on the screen, Josh Allen, one hell of a quarterback. But Josh Allen, like I said in the last video in the preview, and I said that Buffalo-Miami game would be the toughest game of the week, and Buffalo had the toughest matchup. And it came down to a 3-point game, like I predicted. I knew that was going to be a dogfight. Miami is a big play waiting to happen. It's a divisional game, and it was going to be tough no matter how you sliced it. But the key in the playoffs is win and move on to the next week, because each week is its own dynamic. Now, the Buffalo Bills have a great running game because of the quarterback. You have Singletary at running back, and you have Cook at running back. Between those three guys, they can muster up a hell of a running game. Josh Allen has a turnover problem. There's no doubt about that. I said that last week. I told y'all guys, I said Josh Allen turns the ball over, and he turned the ball over this last week. I have a feeling this week, Josh Allen will not turn the ball over the same this week. He'll have a week where I won't say they'll reel the offense in, but they'll call plays to where it's just not so risky. The offense won't be so risky this week. I have a feeling because of the lack of running game, for a consistency with the running game with the Bengals, the Buffalo Bills are going to be able to get after the Cincinnati Bengals. Look for the Buffalo defense to have 4 or 5 sacks. And look for them to catch at least 2 picks because of the pressure up front. They have a cornerback in White who's fantastic. They have a good pass rush, and they have decent linebackers. Tremaine Edmonds. For Buffalo, you know who the best wide receiver is. It's Diggs. Diggs can beat you deep. He can beat you in the medium range, and he can beat you short. Diggs is an all-around receiver. You have Gabe Davis, who came on last year, who had a phenomenal game against the Kansas City Chiefs last year, which was one of the best football games I've ever watched, entertainment-wise. I mean, those two quarterbacks put on a show like you've never seen before. Fantastic. But I just think the Buffalo Bills, like I said, are on a mission. My pick all season for the Buffalo Bills is that they'll eventually end up in the Super Bowl this year. The only thing that's going to hold the Buffalo Bills back is Josh Allen turnovers. But he just has to reel that in. Even with his turnovers, they're in every game, and even with something, a lot of times they still end up winning. He just has to reel it in. This week, I have a feeling, if he turn it over maybe once, but I don't think he'll turn the ball over no more than one time this week. He turned it over 3 times last week. But I got the Bills winning this game. I got this game by 37-24 Buffalo. Buffalo Bills are just too much for Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to run the ball with the running backs. They're going to run the ball with the quarterbacks. They're going to sustain drives a little bit more. They're going to get pressure on Joe Burrows. Unless the Cincinnati Bengals can establish the run and be dedicated to the run, they're going to get washed. So I got Buffalo 37-24. Sports Life and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like. Hit that subscribe. I just took your ass on an AFC playoff ride. Peace.